Hello and a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV with me, Paul Alster. It's always good to be here to have a chat with you and look forward to normally very good weekend racing. That's not the case as far as the racing is concerned this weekend because, as I'm sure you all know, it's looking pretty grim and the turf action has been lost in Britain due to the cold spell, something we used to get on a fairly regular basis back in the day, but over the last decade and a half, it's become increasingly rare. But it does mean that the type of racing I like to tip on is not really there on this occasion. So what I have done is I have come up with one selection on the all-weather. I don't really like tipping on the all-weather for the most part, but there is one race on Saturday that is of some interest. But given the limited number of runners, it's not going to be the normal each-way price, and it will be a single win bet. So that is coming up very shortly. I want you to stay with me because I've got one or two interesting things to say about the service. But if you happen to be new and you're stumbling across Sportsbet for the first time, please press the red subscribe button just below this screen. And then you'll be with me for all my free tips going forward into 2023. Well, it's been 2.5 years since we started Sportsbet, which was an idea we came up with during the pandemic, when a lot of people were sitting around with very little to do, and it seemed a good idea to put my expertise in racing out there for people to consider. And I'm delighted to say that over the now nearly 2.5 years, it's been great fun and it's been a terrific ride. It's one that will continue. It will continue. And I've been very proud that although I don't work full-time as a tipster because I have other things going on in my life, I've been able to show profits regularly, not just over seasons, but over calendar years. And there hasn't been a losing season or calendar year since I started. Indeed, profits have been pretty tasty. Now, this, of course, is in contrast to the statistics that were quoted in the Racing Post just a month or so back, where they pointed out that less than 0.5% of punters actually show a profit. So already you can see just how impressive it's been that I've been able to achieve a profit on all seasons and on all calendar years thus far. Now, I don't normally respond to comments on the section under our YouTube page because that's for people that are watching to have their say. And a lot of what some people say is worth listening to and worth heeding. And there's a lot of rubbish out there as well. I just can't be bothered responding to those kind of things. But I do want to just take up 1 or 2 points that came up on last week's video in the comment section. We've got a few people trying to promote other tipping services because they can't get people coming directly to them. So trying to piggyback off me, well, whatever. I just want to pick up on one comment which was put up by somebody who goes by the handle of looking costs nothing. Well, that's very true. And the person in question, I assume it's a gentleman, has said some nice things there and pointed out that he also used to tip professionally over a couple of seasons against one of the leading tipsters in the business. So good for you. That's impressive. He takes me to task for, in his words, not showing my profit or loss for the service, but this actually is wrong. And I just want to make it very clear to everybody that if you look below the actual screen, just below the link to my Patreon page, you can open up the screen and you will see the monthly profit and loss from the start of the service in July 2020. So there's been absolutely nothing hidden. I do apologize that the last 2 months have not been updated. They will be in the course of the next day or two. I can tell you that for October 22, of course, on a reduced number of tips, there was a loss of £27 to the recommended stakes. And in November 22, last month, there was a loss of £78 to the recommended stakes. So a couple of minor losing months following nice profits, which if you open up the screen now, you will see that in August of 2022, there was a £373 profit 2 recommended stakes. And in September, £181 profit. And I just want to also make clear that, as is noted, the year one profit from the start of the service in July 2020 showed a tremendous £1,886.50. And that is absolutely outstanding, something of which I'm very proud. And I'm very grateful to those of you that gave me so much support and encouragement during that first year, as you did during year 2 as well, from July 2021 to July 2022, when my profit stood overall at £858. Now, taking it to the calendar year this year, if you like, I can give you the calendar years. July to December 2020, £718 profit in that 6 months. In the calendar year of 2021, £1,577 profit. And so far in 2022, despite a lean spell from a limited number of tips in particular over the last few months, the service stands at a profit at the end of November of £774. Now, that is despite the naysayers saying that it's rubbish and all the rest of it. People have very, very short memories. You're only as good as your last tip. I'm perfectly well aware of that. But I just want to put into context and set the record straight that this is a service that over seasons and over calendar years has consistently shown profits. If you have patience, then you're very welcome to continue following me here. And of course, at my subscription service at Patreon, where I'll be giving far more tips than I do at Sportsbet, because I'm investing time and because people are giving a paid subscription, to which I'm very grateful for all those who are involved. So I just wanted to set the record straight as we come towards the end of 2022 and make it clear that if you have been following me level stakes to the selections I have been putting up, you will not have been losing money. Right, so that's that. I've had my little say. I'm going to move on with this one tip I have for you on Saturday. Now, of course, the big freeze has come along and we've lost Ascot, Haydock and Newcastle, all abandoned. Fairyhouse are going to inspect on Friday morning, I believe. This bulletin is being recorded for you Thursday, just after 1:30 in the afternoon, UK time. Fairyhouse don't sound particularly optimistic. We'll have to wait and see. So it leaves Lingfield and Cheltenham on Saturday. And as I mentioned, I don't normally tip on the winter all-weather racing due to the fact that most of it is pretty low-grade stuff, although they have tried to raise the standard in recent seasons. But there is one race at Lingfield that I think is interesting, although, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be looking to tip win, which isn't my normal way, but I know a lot of you do like to just have a little bit of a dabble at the weekend. And with the jumps racing having gone, just to have some interest is better than no interest at all. So even though it's against possibly my better judgment, I am going to put a win bet for you. And that is in the Lingfield 3 o'clock race. Now, this is a pretty classy contest. It's a 1.25 mile race, and there are 6 runners set to go to post. Now, there have been some early prices put up by a few firms, and they were of quite some interest because I'd made my notes prior to those prices being published. So let me just tell you what I have assessed here. There is sure to be plenty of interest in George Bowie's Queen of Ipanema. Now, this filly is on a 6-timer. She's won her last 5 races in tremendous fashion, gone up £3 for her most recent win, which came at Wolverhampton over 1.5 miles. So she's dropping back in trip to 1.25 miles, over which she's also won during the winning streak. And she's gone up £3 for her latest win. I mean, this is a particularly good piece of placing by George Bowie, who is a cracking trainer already taking high rank. But whether or not Queen of Ipanema can continue the run in better company remains to be seen. Now, James Fanshawe runs Viola, who, if you look at the stats, is credited with having won this race last year, but that is rather misleading, I would suggest. This is a horse who won 12 months ago the race that was run in this name, but it actually didn't take place at Lingfield. It took place at Southwell. And it wasn't over 1.25 miles, it was over 1.3 miles. And of course, Southwell is a completely different track. not anywhere near as sharp as Lingfield, and there's that very long straight, which certainly played to the strengths of Viola, who is best at really around 1.5 miles. So she managed to outstay them by winning the race that was in this name last year at Southwell. So because this track is less likely to play to her strengths, I think she is opposable off the back of a 7-race losing streak. And she's also conceding weight all round as a 5-year-old. So she's conceding about £12 and upwards to all her rivals. Now, at the remainder, Sweet Fantasy for Rafe Beckett was beaten a neck over course and distance in November, but has subsequently won at Southwell over 1.5 miles and stayed on really strongly. Will have its supporters for a yard that's had a wonderful 2022. The excellently named Tequila Mockingbird for Charlie Fellows won over course and distance last time out by a nose, has gone up £1, but is jumping up from Class 4 to Class 2. And this really is a different ball game. It'll be very interesting to see if it can cope. And it's a similar story with Tahasson for the Henry Spiller yard, who also won over course and distance last time, but in Class 5 has gone up £3 and now runs all the way up in this Class 2 contest. So my selection here is a filly called Czarina, trained by William Haggis and the Mount of Kieran Fallon. She's only had 4 career runs, and she's a daughter of the great See the Stars and runs in the same colours as the legendary John Ox trained Superstar. Now, this filly won on her debut, which came in June of this year at Yarmouth over 7 furlongs in a maiden. She won it nicely. And then she was beaten odds on, beaten just over a length only at Newmarket, went third in a novice stakes under her penalty. But that was on the back of just a 15-day break after her first outing. So it may well have been that that run came just a little bit too soon for such an inexperienced filly. But she got back on the winning trail after a 7-week break, coming to Lingfield. So she's won at the track. It was over 1 mile. She ran on really strongly, and she appeared to need every yard of the trip when scoring there in a novice stakes over the mile. And then 25 days after that, she went up to Thirsk, but she didn't appear at ease on the soft ground and didn't pick up when asked to, although she did keep on again in the closing stages. She finished 7th of 9, but was beaten less than 5 lengths. Clearly, things just didn't play to her strengths there. Now, what I would say here is that Czarina is bred to stay further than the mile, and her win at this track over the mile back in the late summer suggested that this trip could be absolutely ideal. So she's got the right trip on breeding here. She seems to go well fresh as well, it appears. And of course, William Haggis has had another marvellous season. But bookies are frightened of William Haggis, and with good reason. And that's why when I looked at this race, I thought that I, as a bookie, will probably price her up at 3 to 1 because of the Haggis factor. She's sure to be shorter, and indeed they went in at 7 or 4 early. She's now out to 2 to 1 and is joint favourite with Queen of Ipanema in the betting 6 to 1 bar the pair. My feeling is that Queen of Ipanema will be a public horse because people will see all the ones by its name, people looking to have a bet on Saturday, and they will probably make that favourite. And I think Czarina will drift. And because of that, I am suggesting you back her SP. And whatever that is, I'm hoping it will be bigger than 2 to 1, but it's win only, not £10 each way, nominal, just £10. Win will be the way I play it. And so that's my sporting selection, really, in a field of racing that I don't normally get too involved in because I like to concentrate on jumping at this time of year. But obviously, given the big freeze, better maybe to have some interest, no interest at all. Now, do remember to check out my service at Patreon. You can check out the link, and we'll be really going in with some guns blazing over the Christmas period, but I'll also be tipping for you here over the Christmas period from Boxing Day onwards, and my first bulletin will be before Christmas itself. So I'll look forward to speaking to you again next week from this profitable Sportsbet service. This is Paul Alster saying goodbye for now.